Ladies and gentlemen, saints and sinners, this is the Rum and Bone Show, and on this episode, we are sitting down with Azraiel Flame, founder of North Witch Magick Company. How are you doing, brother?
Fantastic. How are you doing there, Doc?
Oh, it's another day in paradise. I love the hat, man.
Likewise.
How are you?
Oh, just living the dream over here. It's finally starting to warm up a little bit up here in Canada. We've been in this minus 30, minus 40 degree cold spell for the last couple months, and honestly, I'm just fucking sick of it. So we're minus 10 today, so I will take that as a win. This is t-shirt weather for us Canadians. So, but
yeah. Definitely. I mean, here in Jersey, it could be 60 one day and then snowing the next, and it's just kind of the way things kind of roll.
Yeah, for sure.
I'm ready to usher in the new growth myself. I appreciate you coming and joining me today. But to let the folks know who don't know, North Witch.
Yeah, so North Witch is kind of the dream child that came out of the not so blessed period that we call the COVID times. We were in a little bit of a recession about 4 or 5 years ago here in Canada, and then that just kind of rolled through that recession into COVID. And prior to this, we were doing a lot different things. We were actually an outdoors store, and I've been practicing magic and witchcraft for over 20 years now, and it's always just been on the back burner and something I did for myself and something that I did for friends. And I had my community and everything, but I never thought I'd be doing it as a job. And just one day I said, we don't have any orders coming in. Everything's really slow, so I'm going to make a bunch of stuff and let's just throw it up on Etsy and let's see what happens. And I spent the week making a whole line of altar tiles for the Goetia from the Lesser Key of Solomon, and I threw them up online on Etsy, and I was sold out by the end of the week. And I was like, holy shit, this is awesome. All right, I guess I've been saying for years it'd be really cool to own a metaphysical store. Well, I guess this is kind of my sign. So after that, that's what I've been doing ever since, and we've been steadily growing, and our reach is getting huge. And it's super awesome that, I mean, before, as an outdoor store, I could only sell stuff in Canada because a lot of the stuff that we had, I couldn't ship across the border and things like that. Yeah. And, now I'm serving people all around the world, which is absolutely fantastic. So now I have a whole line of novena candles. We make candles for pretty much every god, goddess, deity, spirit you could imagine. I work with both hands. So I have stuff for angels. I have stuff for demons. We've got pretty much every religion you can imagine is represented in our candle line. And if we don't have it, I will custom make it for you. It's kind of something that's just really gone really, really well for us. I'm making and compounding our own incenses here now. We're doing the altar tiles is still our number one seller. I mean, I make some pretty awesome stuff, not to toot my own horn, but I don't know anybody else that's making altar tiles that are blessed and consecrated in the Solomonic traditions and, contain the pentacles and things like that. So it's, we definitely have some unique items that I have not really seen anywhere else. And that's, and it's all spirit led, it's whatever the spirits tell me I need to be doing for them. If I need it myself and they tell me I need it, then, obviously there's got to be other people that will. So just kind of roll with it that way.
Well, I have to tell you, brother, I mean, and I've been, again, yeah, I like you, I've been doing this in, on my own path for 20 plus years, and I've seen a lot of shit. I remember, before the internet days and before you could Google shit and you had to go and seek out these things the old school way.
Yeah.
What caught my eye was the altar tiles. That's I matter of fact, I think it was one of your Saturn seals on an altar tile.
Yeah.
that really caught my eye, and got me interested in what you were doing. And I have to tell you, brother, I do not see very many people at the level of craftsmanship that you bring to the table when it comes to your altar tiles, and
Thank you.
just the variety and the flexibility of what you're able to create is awesome. I mean, 15 years ago, you couldn't find that in any metaphysical store. You couldn't walk
Absolutely.
into your local metaphysical shop and find anything like that, anything about the Goetia, anything about angelic seals, or anything. Or if you did, it didn't come with any definition. It was like,
Yeah.
this is an angel seal. Okay,
Yeah.
well, which angel, which planetary alignment? You couldn't find any information on none of that.
Yeah,
So what you do is not only beautiful and not only needed, but very well appreciated, brother. The craftsmanship level is top notch. I have to give you that.
Thank you. I appreciate that.
It's definitely, now, as far as like your own practice, what path do you follow? Where'd you get your start? What was your journey like? Where did you come onto this path, and where has it led you?
Oh man, it's been a wild ride, let me tell you. And I
Okay.
never, ever, ever would have thought I'd be where I am right now. So I started really, really fucking young. I started practicing when I was 11 years old. And like not just dabbling, like actually like full on learning
Mhm.
how to do the do. And it was
Here's the
it was
deal.
it was very interesting. One of my first experiences, and I know that you're not super keen on it, but the Reiki was one of my first experiences that kind of showed me that there is something more. You know what I mean? Like we growing up, like my grandparents' house was haunted. We had a ghost in there that his name was George, and you could hear him walking around the house. And you'd be sitting at the dinner table in the morning having breakfast, and there was a set of stairs that came down by the kitchen, and there was a door that opened up to come from the upstairs. And so you'd be sitting there eating breakfast, and you just hear this thump, 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 and then the kitchen door would open up, and you'd hear him walk through the kitchen, and then he'd sit down beside one of you at the table. This was a pretty common occurrence, and things like this happened all the time. So I mean, the knowing that the spiritual was there was something that was instilled in me from a very, very young age. So and my mom has always been able to kind of see spirits and hear them and that kind of thing. She doesn't really like to admit it because she still, there's that stigma there. But so I grew up not sheltered from it and not being told these things weren't real. So that really helped. And then, I didn't want to be that weird kid at school because I was picked on and bullied and shit because of the way that I saw the world was very different from, all the city kids that I went to school with. And so I met this friend, and his mom actually was a Reiki master. And so we started going and hanging out at his place. And I thought it was all fucking crazy shit. Like woo woo, this is all made up. This is, you guys are nuts. Right. And so the next thing I know, we're going to the rock and gem shop downtown every day, and we're hanging out there. And, I'm just a punk kid, and I'm getting to meet all these people that have all these different practices. It was in the city, so lots of different people went to this rock shop. So I got to meet people that were, into conjure, and people that were into Wicca. And, the big thing back then was Wicca. That was really what you found everywhere. And, you could go to the local bookshop, go to Indigo Chapters, and, you could find a book on Wicca there for sure, but to try and find something on, traditional witchcraft or conjure or anything like that, that was pretty few and far between. So it was really kind of cool to be at this shop, and he would host full moon circles and esbats and things like that. And you'd get to meet people from all walks of life, hoodoo practitioners, conjure practitioners, that kind of thing. And that was really what started opening up my eyes. And my friend's mom was like, trying to say, like, you can do this stuff, right? And I'm like, well, what do you mean I can do this stuff? I can't do this shit. And she's like, oh, absolutely you can. And so she said, well, I'll teach you Reiki. So here I am, 11 years old, learning Reiki. I practiced faithfully every day. And, the things that I was able to start doing with that alone was, kind of mind boggling, like you're able to take plants that are dead and bring them back to life almost. And you're able to speak to stones and rocks with your hands and understand what they're trying to tell you. And you out in the forest and you're walking along and all of a sudden a tree reaches out with its energy and, offers you to take a branch for a wand, and, things like this that were, it almost makes you sound crazy to the normal person. Right. And so I kept up with that.
I mean, is it any crazier than, eating the body and drinking the blood?
Yeah,
communion.
sure.
I mean,
Yeah, for sure. And so then basically I kept that up for a few years, and it kind of just went from there. I went and I got trained in traditional witchcraft and things like that. But really the biggest catalyst was, again, when I was 11. And I have a brother and sister. They're a half brother and half sister that are, my brother's 11 years younger than me, and my sister's 13 years younger than me. Or sorry, yeah, my brother's 10 years younger than me, and my sister's 11 years younger than me. So my sister's just a newborn. My brother is, a year old. And my mom's friend and our neighbor decides that me and my buddy should start going to Bible study at the church. So well, yeah, I'm sure you already know how this is going to go. So we go to church, and, we start doing this Bible study and whatever else. And I start asking questions that, the pastor didn't want to answer. And, like simple things like, why do you have to be baptized to not go to hell, and things like that. And so we got onto the baptism thing one day because I'd spent long enough in that they were trying to get me to do my confirmation and get baptized and all of that. And so we were talking about it, and I said, so you're telling me that your God sends absolutely everybody to hell that isn't baptized? He said, yeah, absolutely. I said, okay. So that means that my little brother and sister, they're infants. They're still in diapers. They have no free will. They have absolutely nothing bad that they could have possibly ever done. You're telling me that because they haven't dunked their head in some sacred water, that they're going to be tortured for all eternity? He said, yeah, if they don't get baptized when you get baptized and something happens, they're going to be burning for all eternity. And so I looked him straight in the eye and I said, all right, how do you make holy water? What makes it so special? And of course, this is a Lutheran church, so they don't necessarily believe that you need apostolic succession to make holy water. So
91.
So he says, basically, anybody can make it. And I said, okay, well, how do you do it? And so he shows me his little ritual, blessing it in the name of the Trinity and everything else. And he goes over it. And I ask him how to do it. And, I'm really interested. I really want to make holy water. I'm going to save my brother and sister's souls here. Right. Mm-hmm. And so he tells me and he finishes. And so I walk over to the sink, I turn on the faucet and I bless the holy water and I throw it all over my face and I go and turn around and go, there, I guess I'm not going to hell. How many other people want baptized here? So I offered to baptize everybody that was there. And next thing you know, I'm asked not to come back to church. So that's kind of what sent me on my path of discovery is, I don't want to believe in a God or a holy power or anything where, innocent little children are being tortured over absolute ridiculousness. Mm-hmm. And so I went home and kind of left that in the past. And, that was a really dark mark on the church for me for a number of years, which is actually really funny because now I'm a devotee of St. Cyprian. So it's funny how things go absolutely completely full circle when you come to them on your own terms and you have a different understanding of these things. So yeah, basically I spent the next decade dipping my feet into everything, man. I went to voodoo ceremonies. I went to shamanic ceremonies. I did initiations in a number of different traditions. So I have a number of empowerments that I've had done by numerous different masters of different traditions. And, I didn't really find where I wanted to go. So I didn't pursue any of them further beyond, just initial empowerments, first degree levels, things like that. I eventually found a family tradition of witches that practiced traditional European witchcraft. and I went through my entire initiation with them all the way through, and got ordained as a priest in their tradition. And that was that'd be about 10 years ago now. And that was really eye-opening, the amount of power that came with that, and the authority and the spirits that I was working with. And then I kind of found out that they weren't really the people that I thought that they were. And so I ended up leaving that tradition. And I won't name any names because there are probably other people that might be listening that are part of that tradition, but I will not be affiliated with them anymore. Let's put it that way. And when I left, I was threatened with being cursed and things like that. And it was just,
Of course.
traditional scare tactics, right? And so from there I went out and I got really fucking angry and just started practicing on my own, and decided I was going to be a chaos magician, because fuck traditions. Obviously, if this is the way initiation goes, I don't want any part of it. So started dabbling in chaos magic, and that's really where my practice started to take form. Like, my current incarnation of my practice was realizing that the power comes from you, the power comes from the spirits you commune with. The authority that you get by building relationships with these spirits is more powerful than anything else, in my humble experience. And so building relationships with spirits and giving offerings and becoming, someone who's walking in your own power and on your own path was something that was really empowering for me. And then I discovered Hecate, and that was about 8 years ago. And so I've been a Hecatean devotee ever since. I've got my own practice based on stuff, traditional stuff from Hecatean witchcraft, things that I've learned from other Hecatean practitioners over the years. And then, of course, I incorporated everything that I'd learned through my journey with chaos magic and being initiated into all of these other sects and whatever. And of course, my training in traditional witchcraft plays a big part in it. So I practice Hecatean witchcraft, but on my own terms. And then the last 5 years, I was practicing, and I kept getting this inkling that angels and demons are a big part of my life. And I've always had this feeling, but of course, that issue that I had with the church really made me not want to play with anything that could be biblical. I wanted to just wash that away. So about the time I started working with Hecate, I really got into practicing, and I worked with demons, because Hecate is known as a spirit that is able to walk in the upper world, the lower world, and the middle world. She's a very chthonic goddess, and so she's able to give you good control over the demons, and she's a good intermediary. And so I worked with the demons through Hecate for a number of years. And then in the last 5 years, I've started really, really opening up to working with the angels more and stuff like that. Archangel Michael is one that I've worked with for at least a decade. And he's just always been there, but I never saw him as needing to be a part of the church. He's an angel that in my family we recognize him as a protector. So he's just kind of always been there. And yeah, basically working with the angels and the demons, I found that it was strange, because, if you take what the Christians say or the Satanists say or whatever, you shouldn't be able to work with both. You shouldn't be able to work with both those hands. If you work with angels, the demons don't want to work with you because you're too holy. And if you work with demons, the angels won't work with you because you're too evil. And I found that was not the case, even a little bit.
Yeah. I feel all that. I mean, it's actually crazy. My path is very similar to yours. Yeah. And when it comes to the angels and demons and good spirits versus bad spirits versus holy spirits versus evil spirits, it very is tomato.
Yeah.
One man's demon's another man's angel.
Absolutely.
And when you look into the historical roots of these terms and even the biblical stories,
Yep.
when you look into where they came from and where we even get the words demon and angel and cherubim and seraphim and demonos and all of that, there is a very fine line, and it gets stepped across quite a bit.
For sure. And that's something that, you know, Hecate kind of, I was working with all these spirits that Hecate was leading me to, and they would come under different guises and whatever. And it took until about 5 years ago for me to realize, well, I've been fucking working with the angels and demons this whole time. They didn't present themselves to me that way because I wasn't ready to work with them that way. You know, like I was working with Baal, who is, you know, old Canaanite god. And, you know, I'm looking at him as a Canaanite god. Well, here he's a demon. And, you know, I'm looking at other spirits that are angels that, you know, maybe I saw them as Valkyries, or maybe I saw them as something from a different tradition. And, you know, that's when Saint Cyprian really came in, and he actually approached me, and it was really, really interesting because I was doing a working with Hecate, and I said, I need to have an intermediary that is able to work with me in this Christian paradigm so that I can work with it and so that I can approach it on my own terms. And that's when Cyprian just kind of stepped forward and said, hey,
patron saint of necromancers.
Exactly. And he said, hey, I work with both the devil and the angels. I partake of the Sabbath and I partake of the Mass, and I work with both hands, and I am also a bishop, and I am a saint, and I can help you with this. And so that's when it kind of really started getting really crazy for me. And, you know, that now I mean, the cosmology, honestly, my belief is that none of us can really know. We know that the spirits are real. We know there's an afterlife, or the necromancy wouldn't work. We know that there is gods out there. We know there's many of them because when we call to them, they come. We know that there's different types of authority that give us different ways to work with them. But to say for sure which theology is correct, we can't. It's too big for any of us to know. And so once I kind of came to that conclusion that, you know, theology doesn't fucking matter. What I'm going to go with is I'm going to go with what the spirits teach me. I'm going to go and be spirit led. And I am going to do my magic based on what they teach me, what they show me, and what works. And what doesn't work, I'm going to fucking throw it away. And if your dogma hinders me, I'm not going to follow it. It's just not going to happen.
Amen, brother. And just to clarify, when he talks about Saint Cyprian, we were talking about Saint Cyprian of Antioch, not
not of Carthage. Yeah.
A lot of people get that confused. Got to throw it out there. Also, I mean, as a well-known conjurer, probably, I mean, if you're going to believe the mythology and the things around him suggest, probably the greatest conjurer that's ever lived. Jesus of Nazareth,
yes,
once said, the house of God is built with neither wood nor stone, but in the hearts of men.
Yeah. And
so
the kingdom of heaven is inside of you.
Exactly, as above and so below. We all approach the spirit in our own personal way, right?
Yeah, it's the same with people. I mean,
absolutely.
My relationship with you is going to be a lot different than your wife's relationship with you, or your closest friend is going to have a better relationship with you than somebody that you just met on the internet. You know,
I fucking hope so. While I am very, 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 very attracted to that beard you got going on, brother. You know, and that's what it is. And I mean, and that's the spiritual path in general. And I think, you know, I mean, we can deep dive into the historical aspects and the way certain civilizations like the Roman Empire, the Mongols, the Ottoman Turks, you know, and how they influenced our modern, you know, ideology, and how certain spirits and certain gods got synchronized, especially when you talk about the Egyptians and the Greek and the Romans and the Phoenicians. And then you go even further back and you talk about the, you know, the Assamites and the Sumerians and all of that, and you know, Hebrews and all that stuff. I mean, it becomes essentially spiritual jello. You know, there's a lot of flavors, but it's all the same shit.
Yeah, for sure.
You
Well, and
know,
that's something too that, like me practicing chaos magic really showed me, once you start doing paradigm shifting and think practices like that, you can really see how people get stuck in their boxes and they're unwilling to change it. Like you ask somebody who's an initiate of the Golden Dawn or the AA to go and do you a simple folk magic spell. Well, they can't do it because they're not drawing the hexagrams and the pentagrams and invoking the angels and doing whatever else that they need to do that they would normally do in their daily practice. But then if you would have asked your grandmother to go and do it, she'd go, what the fuck are you drawing shit in my room for? Sit down here and light this goddamn candle, right?
yeah, sweep
And
that shit up, boy. You know,
yeah.
that would have been her response immediately. But like my grandmother used Psalms to a great extent. Okay. And what a lot of people don't realize is that the book of Psalms are literally songs. They're meant to be sung and that's a throwback to all, and I don't give a shit what part of the world you're from, or what culture you're from. There is a connection between music and spirituality. There is
100%.
Yeah, like mathematics, maybe the alphabet of the gods.
Yeah.
But music is the language of the gods. So these were songs, Psalms 91, Psalms 21, Psalms 37. These weren't just prayers. They were songs of praise. They were incantations. They were words of power. Okay. And you can see that through every culture. All right. Absolutely. You can see that in the throat songs of the Mongols. You can see that in Native American drumming. You can see that in various cultures. This is something that transcends the boxes. Again, those lines of shades and gray. It's, your own personal experience and relationship with the spirit that matters most, and whether you choose to incorporate that into a more overall organized religion, whether it be Catholicism, Voodooism, Buddhism, whatever it is, if that's what your spirit and that's what your path calls you to do, go and do so. But that does not make the eclectic or the chaotic magician or spiritualist any less for staying out of that box.
Yeah.
It's two sides of the same coin.
Yeah, absolutely. And another way is you could say, throw away that cultural lens altogether. And don't get me wrong. I believe culture is important and it definitely has its place in our practices and everything. But if we were to, play devil's advocate again and throw away that cultural lens, maybe the jinn are spirits of the desert. Maybe the fae are the spirits of the forest. Maybe the gnomes are the spirits of the mountains. Maybe the dwarves are the spirits of the mountains, and all of the drakes and dragons are the spirits of fire, and the sylphs and zephyrs are the spirits of the air, and maybe you can split it up into things that way, and you can look at it from elemental kingdoms, or, there's so many different ways to look at it rather than getting caught up in those lenses. And that's what I mean by, when I started doing paradigm shifting and, this week, I'm going to really, 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 really focus on looking at things from a Hindu perspective. And I'm going to actually practice stuff with Lord Hanuman. And then next week, I'm going to completely throw that away. And I'm going to be a Catholic Christian. And I'm going to go to mass this week. And I'm going to go and I'm going to light
Send me pictures of that.
I'm going to light a novena in the church and I'm going to take communion and everything else, right? Or maybe I'm going to go to the synagogue and I'm going to watch what's going on with them, or I'm going to go to the Buddhist temple and do some praying there for a week or whatever. And that's, that really started to show me that it doesn't matter what culture you're in. Magic is the one thing that pervades every culture. Magic, religion, prayer, and belief are things that pervade every culture. And we can take something from all of it and make it work. Now, obviously, cultural appropriation is a thing that everybody's battling right now and things like that. But that doesn't change the fact that magic is in every culture. And so how you practice magic, I can guarantee is going to be different than how I do it. But we can probably get similar results with different tech.
That's what we need to be doing. We need to be thinking outside of our own spheres. Like you can have your tribe, you can have your own core beliefs, you can have your own roots, you can have your own culture, you can have all that. But if you want to understand the world, you have to experience the world. And the only way you're going to do that is by exploring other cultures, other traditions, getting to know other people that are different from you. It's the only way that's going to happen. So
you can't expand your worldview without exploring others. You can't. And you end up getting stuck in that box and you never grow. And that's, nobody wants that. Well, maybe you do, but I don't.
It's the difference between living waters and stagnant waters. But when it comes to personal growth and stuff, I mean, life is not stagnant, and the spirit world reflects the material world, or the living world. The living world is always growing, always changing, always, it's an ever moving thing. The spirit world is very much the same. It's I mean, you look at it even historically, through the various scriptures and the various cultures, you can see the same archetypes replayed over and over and over and over and over again, whether it be Jesus Christ or Horus Ra or Amun Ra or Gilgamesh or Hecate. I mean, Hecate, and I actually kind of want to pick your brain about that because I have my own theories when it comes to the goddess. I mean, there's a reason why she's seen as, a crossroads deity, which there are many. But the one thing they all seem to have in common is they also seem to be not just a crossroads deity in the spiritual sense, but also in the mundane sense, is that this is where cultures have crossed. This is where cultures have intermingled. Persia and all of that. And because of her influence or power or whatnot, I mean, she was recognized as, she has privileges even within the Olympic pantheon that even Zeus himself does not have.
Zeus himself fears her. she is one of the primordials, and she has her seat in Olympus and in Hades. And I have not found anywhere that she can't go, to be honest. I mean, if I want to work with angels and demons, I can work with them just as effectively with her through the Christian lens as I can with Saint Cyprian. And it's, I have not found anywhere that she cannot permeate, that she can't go, that I haven't found a spirit that she can't help put me in communication with, provided that I'm meant to speak to that spirit. If I'm not, I'm not supposed to speak to the Loa, she's not going to bring them to me. You know what I mean?
Yeah, for sure. Exactly. And that kind of brings me, to the other thing, that when it comes to the crossroads spirits, like you see a lot of the same type of mythology or idea behind, like Crom Crouch and Papa Legba and the Morganan and these other deities that kind of straddle. We would call them crossroad deities or deities that straddle the veil between the physical world and the land of the dead.
Well, and I kind of see the crossroads as it is the crossroads of all things. It's the crossroads of all cultures. It's the crossroads of all beliefs. It's the crossroads of heaven and hell. It's the crossroads of, everything, and everything is it. It is a place that is not a place, that is a place that is every place.
There's the paradigm.
We could go on and on about how there's all of these cross references from all these different cultures. And, really the one thing that we can use as a good example is the pyramids. There's absolutely no way that the Egyptians were speaking to the people in Brazil. They just weren't. There's no way that they were speaking to the people in Russia. And we find pyramids in all of these cultures all around the world, and they're all aligned to the same constellations and the same stars, and their underworlds are similar, their heavens are similar. It's mind-boggling when you start looking at the cross-cultural.
And I don't claim to have all the answers. Again,
neither do I. This is purely speculation.
I'm my own pilgrim on my own road, looking at things through my own lens. But it's like I like to say, every culture has a sun god. Okay. Well, we know scientifically that the sun is a physical thing.
Yep.
How many spirits does the sun have? Is it many spirits, or is it one spirit viewed through multiple cultural lenses through the eyes of men? And that's that's a question that every walker, every pilgrim upon upon the paths has to ask themselves and come to terms with, whether you believe that there are many aspects to one, or there is one that we've given many aspects to.
For sure.
For sure. Um, but at the end of the day, there's no wrong answer there. If whatever you're doing, whether you're a chaos magician, whether you're a Catholic priest, whether you're a Buddhist monk, if it makes you a better mother, son, father, brother, sister, if it empowers you, if it calls you, it's a good thing.
Well, and that's kind of how I weigh things for my practice now. Like I said, I've pretty much given up on theology and thrown that out the window. Now I look at it as, does it work? Is it giving me efficacious results? Does it work every time? Is there something that I need to change about it? Really approaching it with a scientific, explorative manner. I mean, we can get into how the people who approach magic through the methods of science don't necessarily do that. Yes, looking at you, Thelema. But if you actually do truly approach it with that scientific method, is it improving your life? Are you getting better? Is your life exponentially improving? When you do that spell, are you getting a result? And is it improving things, or is it making it worse? When you work with this spirit, is your life getting better, or is it getting worse? These are the things that I measure now. I look at efficaciousness and effectiveness, and does my practice work? And if it doesn't, I throw it out and I try something new. Like for example, the pentacles that I work with, the Pentacles of Solomon from the Greater Key. Mm-hmm. If you take the Greater Key and you read it, and there's very specific instructions, and there are talisman makers out there who will tell you that if you do not follow those instructions, if you have not fasted for your 3 days before,
made on a Tuesday, baptized in the blood of a lamb.
Exactly. And if you don't follow that, it will not work and you won't get results.
Which is, to my experience, false.
But I was just going to say, at the same time, I can go and I can draw that same piece on a piece of parchment. It's not going on gold or tin or lead or whatever the planetary metal is. Mercury or whatever, and I can work it through a conjure perspective and use a candle, and I can summon and call those angels and just call them by name, and I can say some appropriate solemns, and all of a sudden I'm actually seeing the results that pentacle is purported to give. So if I have to follow the Greater Key to a T, why is it that I'm getting these results? How is this happening? If it cannot happen without, using the blood of a dove or whatever, how is this happening and why? And maybe we don't need to know why. Maybe we just need to do the experiments and see if they work. Right.
Well, a lot of it, and again, that could be a whole episode. We could have a roundtable discussion about the Golden Dawn and the Greater and Lesser Keys and all of that.
Yeah.
But it boils down to faith. When you look at the Catholic Church, and there's a lot we could say about the Catholic Church, right?
Yeah.
But specifically, when it comes to their teachings on exorcism, there's a lot of good stuff there. Like they deep dived.
There is some potent magic in the Catholic Church.
Yeah. Now they use certain terminologies and things based on faith and belief and their own, with the Holy Trinity and all of that. Like it definitely has their own flavor. But as far as the fundamentals of it, the rudimentary in exercising or combating aggressive spirits, there's valuable information there.
Absolutely.
So how do you, it's one of those things that how do you take the dogma, or the propaganda or however you want to look at it, out of the actual fundamental or stereo instructions, the math of it, and applicate it. You know, like, is it because it's holy water that it hurts the bad spirit, or is it because you believe it's holy water that it hurts the bad spirit? Or is it that the bad spirit believes that it's holy water? That personal connection. I mean, faith and belief, whatever it is, whether you believe in the box or you believe outside the box, the belief in that personal connection and your own personal pilgrimage matters.
Well, and I like that you just brought up exorcism with that, because I have done exorcisms and I do have training in it. And one of the things that I have physically seen is, if people are trying to do an exorcism and they're trying to do it from a place where they have no power or authority. For example, if you're just deciding you're going to do it and you've never been a part of the church and you are going to use those Catholic exorcisms, they're probably not going to work for you.
Yeah, you don't believe it if you
whereas if you're a devotee of Hecate and now you go and you do that exorcism with Hecate behind you, and you are speaking from a place of your own authority where you have power and you have spent a good portion of your time learning and growing, and that is your spiritual authority, you will be successful in that exorcism.
Mm-hmm.
Right. And it's just like a Catholic priest can't go and use Hecate to get rid of somebody. It's not, they're going to look at them and go, you don't even fucking know Hecate. Are you kidding me?
Yeah,
you know, like
it goes. I mean, it goes hand in hand. I mean, and that's kind of one of the distinct, because and the whole reason why I bring it up and why I make a point is that a lot of the more organized or the initiated side of the community views us electric, chaotic, do it your own way motherfuckers as being the faithless. Like, we can't do what they do because we lack faith in whatever it is they do. And that is very much not the case.
I would argue the opposite, actually. I would say that we are able to very much see that their stuff is effective because they believe in it, and we know that ours is effective because we have practiced it. And especially for people like you and I, where we're spirit led and we learn from the spirits and the relationships we built from them, that's worth its weight in gold. Yeah, I remember going to try and get rid of a negative spirit one time. A friend called me up and said, "Hey, I need your help," whatever. And I had training in witchcraft at this point, but I'd been doing some Golden Dawn AA type stuff. And I was doing the LBRP every day, and, just working on that and using that just kind of as a daily ritual. And I thought, well, I'm not going to do what I know. I'm going to use this new LBRP because I've been doing this for, probably a few weeks at this point, and, let's go and do this. And I did it, and the spirit fucking laughed at me. You could hear it cackling. And like, the people that were with me are not spiritual people. They're asking me to seriously, like, just something's going wrong, cleanse my house. And they're like, it's fucking laughing at you. What are you doing? And I'm like, well, I'm trying this new technique that's supposed to be amazing. And, apparently it's not doing what I think it's doing. Right. And it's like, so then of course I go and I call upon Hecate and I do the exorcism, and the spirit goes, right. And so I was laughing about it because I've had other friends where, you're supposed to smudge with sage to get rid of evil spirits. And then you go and you light a sage stick and the spirit's like, oh, that smells kind of nice. I like that scent.
Right. It makes me want brownies.
Yeah, exactly.
It's not going to have that effect if you don't have the will. And like you said, you tried some shit with the Golden Dawn. It wasn't working. You went back and you came back with the willpower and the faith. You could have burned a birthday candle and probably did the same shit.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, and having those spirit allies is also one of the most important parts
Oh, absolutely.
in my opinion. If you haven't built relationships with intermediary spirits that are going to help you out, you're not going to be successful anyway. Like you just won't, like the spirits you work with are probably far different than the ones I work with, but we've worked with them for how many years now. And so we have a rapport with them and they will have our back. And, without that, good luck.
Now, let me ask you this, Northern Witch or North Witch.
Yeah.
What are your future plans? What can we expect new from you?
Well, we've launched the podcast this year, so we're going to be growing that. So we've got the North Witch podcast. We've got Patreon is growing as well, so people can hang out on that. I allow the patrons to ask questions to anyone that we have on the podcast, so that's a cool little perk. And then you also get me doing spell work for you every month if you're in the upper tiers. But the biggest thing is I'm getting back to teaching this year. The blessing of COVID is I've learned about this wonderful tool called Zoom. And so now,
me too.
Yeah. So now I'm definitely going to be starting to teach again. I have a few courses that are in the works. Probably going to be doing like a year and a day course in witchcraft. And I'll probably do a little bit of teaching with Cyprian and Hecate, depending on what they allow me to teach over the next year or so. And then I've started a new thing that I'm calling the Sorcerer's Sermons. And so it's where I teach shorter classes that are not like months-long courses. So, like 2 to 3 hour type classes. And then they're going to range anywhere between $30 up to $125, depending on the topic, what you get. I give a lot of extra material in my handouts sometimes. For example, I just did a Jupiter class. I teamed up with Adam Darkley from The Devil's Conjure, and we taught that. And you get a lot of information in that, which is stuff on working with Jupiter and Jove and the pentacles of Jupiter that we've learned over the last decade. So you get there was a lot of work put into that. So it's a bit more of an expensive course. And then I just did a class on building relationships with spirits that's $30. I mean, you can't go wrong. And you get an entire practice for how to build those spirit allies, like we were just talking about, and to build that authority with the spirits and to learn from them and things like that. So that's kind of going to be the big thing this year, is I'm going to be doing a lot of sermons and putting out a lot of smaller classes. And then that's kind of going to be the thing. I mean, of course, I'm always tinkering, making new magical objects and shit like that. So we'll probably be seeing some talismans and stuff coming out from Cyprian and Hecate over the next year. I've got some stuff I've got on the burner right now that I'm working on with both of them, actually. So that'll be cool. I'm just finishing up. You do conjure, so you probably use nails and stuff a lot. I've got some nail talismans and amulets that I'm working on with both Hecate and Cyprian that are going to be awesome for protection and for personal empowerment. So lots of magic and lots of teaching is pretty much what's happening this year.
I'm very excited to see your new products, brother. Again, like I said, I'm a big fan. Like, you caught me with the altar tiles, and it's just been like, what's this motherfucker going to do next? Yeah. Every time. Like, I want to see it. You do great work. I do greatly appreciate you coming on the show and sitting down with me and having the chat.
Thanks for having me.
I want to know where you got that hat.
There is a hat store in the West Edmonton Mall if you were ever in Edmonton, Alberta, Canada, and they get handmade hats there. And yeah, as soon as I saw this, I was like, I have to fucking have that hat.
That was the same one with this one. I saw this at a random little shop in the French Quarter and snapped it up. Ladies and gentlemen, saints and sinners, this episode of the Rum and Bones is brought to you by the good folk at Grey Hedge. The folks over at Grey Hedge create some of the most beautiful and powerful spiritual products I have ever worked with. From pendulum scrying mirrors and handcrafted wands to a staggering array of spiritual oils, curios, and candles. The good folks at the Grey Hedge have what you need for all your spiritual and occult needs. So hop on over to www.etsy.com/shop/Grey-Hedge, or you can find them on Facebook, Instagram, TikTok. The links will be in the description below.
Come see what magic waits for you over the hedge at the Grey Hedge.
People are looking for you online. Where can they find you?
You can go to www.northwitch.store. That's my main store. That's where I have all my products listed and all of my classes and everything. You can also find me on Etsy, North Witch Magick Co. on Etsy. And then, of course, I have all the socials. Everything is North Witch Co. or North Witch Magick Co. We're on Instagram, Twitter, Facebook. We have a TikTok. So you can find us pretty well anywhere. North Witch, you'll find me. And yeah, it's that simple.
Very excellent, brother. Well, I appreciate you coming on. It was a great time. I enjoyed talking to you, and I hope to have you back soon.
You bet. Sounds good. Likewise.
Saints and sinners, thank you for sticking around to the end of the video. If you want to see more wicked content, please like, subscribe, and share. And if you want to support us further, you can go over to Wicked House on Patreon and subscribe. Get bonus features, exclusive content, live interviews, Q&As, the whole works. We at the Wicked House appreciate your support. Cheers.